I ended up at one point with my wife and this other single lady fighting over me. My wife, 10 years younger than me, and this other woman like 15 or 16 years younger than me. I'd never had two women fighting over me in my life. The dating scene, what's it like for Westerners when they go to China? What can they expect, dating-wise? I'm probably not the best person to talk to. I'm probably one of the least best people to talk to because when I went over I was middle-aged, nearly 41 when I went to China, whereas most of the guys that go are in their 20s. Having got to know lots of young guys in their 20s, I heard about their experiences. The easiest way to explain would be, even if you're the kind of guy who can't even get a girlfriend in your country, you go to China, you'll have no problem. Just by being foreign, you're already different. You may have heard the expression about peacock, you know, how guys get attention by showing off. Western guys just have the advantage of being Western. They're already a standout. Whether it's a stereotype or not, it's certainly a believed one that Western guys have larger endowment. The girls believe this anyway, and they're very, very curious. This makes it one of the reasons it makes it very, very easy. Also, young ladies, they want to have their photograph taken with foreigners so they can put it all over social media. It makes them look international. It makes them look cool. So foreign guys are sought after. Chinese girls and Chinese ladies, even closer to my age. Most of them are married by the time they're my age, but very, very easy to get interest. This is not necessarily a good thing. I got myself into a serious relationship quite early, and I had a lot of exposure to single women because I met so many of them. It's very, very easy to take things further if you want to. I was a good boy. I ended up at one point with my wife and this other single lady fighting over me. I'd never had two women fighting over me in my life. My wife, 10 years younger than me, and this other woman like 15 or 16 years younger than me. You know, they're virtually fighting over me. And eventually I had to tell this other girl, we can't be friends, you've got to go away. And it hurt her feelings, but something I had to do. Not a comfortable thing, but it's a nice experience to have two women fighting over you if you've never had it before. But the young guys I spoke to, they were usually living at large, you know? They were just having a blast, enjoying their youth, getting drunk, lots of different girlfriends, loads and loads of experience. So if you're the kind of guy who's looking for that, that's the positive side. Very, very easy to date and get sex in China. If you're a young guy, lots and lots of single women are interested. But there's the other side. You've got to know what they're interested in and why. Chinese culture is different, they have a different media. And the way things are portrayed in the media, they have a very different, specific idea about Westerners. So Chinese women automatically assume that Western men are more experienced and, there's the big one, richer. They are after marriage and they want to have children. There's almost no exceptions to this that I saw. So guys who are going there just for fun, they are leaving a trail of disharmony behind them, put it that way. When sooner or later they end up married and with children. This just happened again and again to any of the foreigners I saw who stayed there for any length of time. It's quite common for foreigners just to come to China for 2 or 3 years. They have some fun, they just have an experience and then they go back. But the ones that tend to stay and settle down and get into a serious relationship, they can end up married and with children before their time. That's just in my opinion. Not necessarily just before their time, before they're really ready for it. They've gone over there as part-time teachers, or even full-time teachers. And while there was a big call for that in 2013 when I went, there's been a massive reduction in that area. The government's clamped down on training schools. Many foreigners, especially since the COVID outbreak, have just left China. When I first arrived in China, there was hundreds of foreigners in the city that I knew. By the time I left, there was maybe 1 or 2 others in the whole city that occasionally I bumped into. A wasteland from foreigners' point of view because all the training schools had been closed by the government. Foreigners just could not make any money. And I knew some foreign guys who went back to their countries, and even though they had a Chinese wife, they weren't allowed back into the country. These are some of the pitfalls. My information is kind of already out of date. That was sort of a window, I think. My experience, because I didn't live wild, but I certainly went to lots of parties. I certainly had a big social life. There was a gym in the same building where I lived, and a restaurant downstairs. And I was always eating in restaurants, always going to parties, being invited to these big dinners. I caught the wave. I was there at the right place at the right time, and I was able to have a really good time. I mean, maybe it'll happen again. For me, I actually said at the time, it's like being back in the 80s, because the 80s is when I was young, and there was a vibe in the air in the 80s. Highly optimistic, maybe a little naive as well. And that was sort of like China of the 20-teens. It was very vibrant, very alive, everything was going up, the economy was going up, culture was becoming more and more alive, and there was an energy vibe in the air that was great. That's not there now, and I don't know whether it will come back or not. So if you're a foreigner thinking of going out there, you're probably not. Nothing, you know, the world seemed to be becoming more and more international. And when Obama was in power, Americans were being given longer visas, and everything just looked more and more positive. What's happened in the last few years, it unfortunately does not look that way now. Who knows where it will go in the future. Hi everyone, my name is Neil Carpenter. I am the computer games developer who made Lord Temin's Fortress. You can see the description below. If you like this video, please subscribe or like. Thank you. Have a great day.